tell me that I am not the only one who makes plans to finish all the things and promises yourself that you're going to do that before you cast on something new, and then all of a sudden gets a bee in your bonnet and does the exact opposite. Hello, my name is Michelle, and this is Michelle's Fiber Studio podcast. Today is Monday, July 6th, and this is episode number 99. Yes, we are almost at 100. I can't even believe it. I'm trying to think about maybe what I could do a little different next week, and I will continue to chew on that. But at any rate, it is episode 99 today. It is cloudy, mostly cloudy, although the sun kind of keeps popping in and out, but it is a delightful, I think 79 right now. It was like 75 earlier, but it is comfortable. We are coming off of the big heat wave that kind of, I don't know if crippled is the right word, but really plagued the Northeast last week. At the end of last week, we were in the high 90s. Close to 100 actually, I think, and probably with the humidity and the heat index, it actually was over 100, but it feels wonderful. I have my windows open and I'm enjoying the fact that I can have them open and turn the air conditioner off, and I don't have to have that noisiness running in the background. So if you hear the road noise, I apologize, but that's where we're at today. I have so much to share with you. Of course, I was gone last week on vacation, so I'm back after a 2-week absence. Lots of projects to talk about. I am wearing knitting, but I'm not going to talk about it quite yet because this is actually one of my finished objects. So how about we move on over into that section and I can talk about it proper. Yes, I am wearing a finished object. This is my Brooklyn Raglan Lite. I will stand up a little bit. If I stand on my tiptoes, I think you can actually see it's got this lovely little cutout on the sides. It fits really good. This is a pattern by Tori Yu. I started it on May 30th. And I finished it on June 27th, just in time to wash and block it and bring it on vacation with me. So let's talk a little bit about the yarn. Oh, let's talk about the yarn, shall we? Where are my scraps here? I have in my a little mesh pouch here. I don't know if you can, how well you can see that. I have all of my little scraps. You might recall couple episodes back, I showed a picture of my yarn. First of all, let me show you the tag. This is Ella Ray Lace Merino. It is a aqua blue is the color name. So this is yarn that I've had for a very long time. I originally got 2 skeins of this from a friend of mine who was destashing it in like, I don't know, I think it was like 2018 or 19. It started out as a project that I was going to make in 2020, a lace shawl, beaded lace shawl. I cast it on and worked on it for a little while. Took it out the following summer and discovered that it had been sitting in a project bag behind me in the corner, but something had gotten to it. I don't think it was moths. I'm thinking some sort of a bug or maybe a mouse or whatever, but I had like 3 different holes in the shawl. So I had to undo the shawl, which I did. I actually restarted the shawl, worked on it a little bit, not as much as I had originally in that summer of 2021, and then set it aside. And this past winter, I was pulling out old projects and kind of deciding what I was going to do with those projects, and decided I was not going to knit the shawl. I was no longer interested in it. I was going to undo it and reclaim the yarn and do something else. And actually, as I was undoing, I'm like, that would make a really great t-shirt. And it does, doesn't it? I love the colors. I'm really happy, truly, with how this came out. It has some fun detail in the shoulder. I don't even know exactly what this pattern, it's not a broken rib or almost like a seed stitch, but not quite. Anyway, so I unwound that yarn, I set it aside, and I cast it on. Decided to cast it on. what did I say, at the end of May, right? At the very end of May, May 30th. And I was knitting away happily, and then I was getting ready to wind the second skein, which had been living, those two skeins had been living together in that project bag. And when I went to wind the second skein, I discovered that whatever had chewed the holes in the shawl project had apparently also gotten to the second skein of yarn because there was a bunch of breaks in it. So I ended up with, I think it was 13 different balls of yarn, the largest of which was 26 or 27 grams, or maybe not quite 20 grams. I don't remember exactly, but needless to say, I was a little frustrated, but I was halfway through knitting and still wanted to use this. And I'm like, well, I guess we're gonna forge ahead and I'm just gonna have a ton of ends to wave in, which I did. I actually ended up with, in my notes I have it written down, 15 different joins in the bottom section. And I can actually put a picture I took of the inside of one of the sides. And it was frustrating, but it's done. And they're all woven in really nicely. I don't think they're gonna come out. I left, I didn't cut them super short. There we go, see? I left them a little bit longer than maybe I would have normally, just so that way, kind of as an insurance, just because there was so many. And it'll be fine. But I'm thrilled to have this done. I did wear it on vacation, although it was starting to get really warm. And it was kind of actually almost too warm to wear a knitted top because it was in the high 90s. But I had to wear it at least once, right? I think I wore it on the first day that we were in North Conway. So let me see. I think that is pretty much everything I want to talk about. I have in my notes 18.5 grams total is what I used. They were 100-gram skeins. So I did use pretty much all of it. These little scraps, I think I'm just gonna I'm gonna throw them in my scrap bin because they're still good. And I am working on that scrap hexie project and I can hold them with the other yarn double and they'll be fine. Part of the reason, I guess I could say, part of the reason I ended up with additional ends and the 12 or 13 balls, and actually I didn't use all the 12 or 13 balls. I think there's about 7 or 8 of them that I didn't end up using, like the tiniest ones that were only a couple of grams. But as I was knitting along, I would come to a weak spot that I had not seen when I was originally winding it up. So I ended up having to break it in addition to already working with a smaller piece. I ended up having to break it. So, but anyway, it is done. It is yarn that is out of my stash, which is also a really good thing because it was one of my older batches of yarn. So that feels good too. So that is finished project number 1. Finished project number 2, you haven't even seen. And I would say that I started and finished it, but that is not entirely true. But I have a little Beary gnome. Fix the hat here a little bit. This is a pattern by Schira from Imagine Landscaped. And I actually started back in April. She did this gnome knit along through the month of April. It was a mystery gnome. I think there was a total of 4 clues that were released. I started it over April vacation and I knit the hands and the beard and the pocket. Like I did all of the fiddly little bits pretty much on vacation and then set it aside and didn't touch it. So about a week before we went to New Hampshire, I took it back out and I started the hat and I had gotten the hat done and like half of the sweater here. And then I brought it with me on vacation and I finished almost all the way down to the sweater. And then yesterday I picked it back up and I just finished it. And it was just basically knitting the bottom section and then sewing it together. I should tell you the yarn is Miss Babs. And I got sucked in because I saw this kit from Miss Babs come through on my email and I totally fell down on that one. And this is the kit that I had gotten. It was those 3 colors. You can see I still have a lot left. This is her Yummy 2-ply toes, and the colors are, I believe this darker purple is Cordovan, Head Over Heels, and Pink Passion, I think is the lighter one. I use a total of 25 grams total to knit that little bear. And these were 37 gram minis, I believe. It's not printed on here, but I think in my Ravelry is just what I said. And I used 25 grams total. So I have a ton left over. I almost think I could get a pair of socks out of this, maybe with one more color just to supplement it. I think it was a total of 40 something grams, 50 grams. I don't remember now how much I have left over. But at any rate, I have a lot left over. I'm thrilled with that. So I gotta go tuck this back into my stash, but I'm happy to have that project kind of off the needles, as it were, although it was kind of just sitting in there in the background for most of the spring, but now it's not occupying that mental space. So super fun, super cute. It'll join my other little gnomes on my shelf here next to me. Now that I've shared my finished objects, let's talk about the works in progress that I have. I think I have 4 different projects to talk about, and I'm not even sure where to start. I think I'll start with my little blanket that I'm working on. This is the Level Up Crochet Advent Blanket by Lucienne Crochet. It's kind of had a few little false starts as it happened, but I am knitting this for my niece-in-love, shall I call her, my best friend's little girl, and I'm excited to finally get started on this one. I promised it to her, oh gosh, back in like March, I think, but I told her at the time, I said, I will make you a blanket, but it's going to be the 3rd one in the queue, because I had a couple of other ones. I had the baby blanket for the baby shower, and then the other blanket that I just finished for her sister. So I am using Baby Bee Sweet Delight, and I've got 5 different colors from Hobby Lobby. And what I am doing, I got different shades of green, and I am doing an 8-row repeat. So I'm doing 7 rows of my color, and you really can't barely tell because my first color is kind of the fadey, no, not fadey, what's that word? I don't know, variegated. But this row right here is, and it's the same as the cast on or the starting chain. That is the main color. Actually, you can see it just below the green is the single crochet row. And I am just about done the 7 rows of my color, and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to do that in 7-row repeats. I believe if I've weighed it out properly, that will allow me to do the color progression 4 times total. And that will pretty much use up the entire skeins of the colored yarns, not the neutral or the main color, I guess I could call it. And then I will be able to put a border on with that main color. So it is so, I'm happy with how this is coming out as far as the drape in this. It's so soft and flexible, and I think she's gonna really like it. So I started this on, what's the date? June 23rd. So right before I went on vacation, I brought it with me. I did work on it some while I was gone. In fact, I did a much, the first time I was trying to figure out how big of a section to do, and I weighed it when I got to 6 rows, and it came in at like 90 grams. Like, wow, I've hardly used any. All right, well, I'll do another 6 rows, and then it was at like 60 grams. I don't know. It was, and then I realized that I was starting with 113 gram skein. So anyway, I think I've got it figured out now where I can do 4 sections. That's the bottom line. So that is that project. I'm hoping that my friends are going on vacation next week. So I am hoping that I can have this done for the week after next. I think that's doable. And as a bonus, that will mean I will have it done just before I head back out on vacation to go to New York City to visit my daughter. So that is currently my goal, to finish this in the next 2 weeks. All right, that is project number 1. how about we talk about my blue striped socks? I worked on these a lot while I was on vacation, and look, I have the first sock done. I am thrilled. Love these socks. I was right about here, I do believe, when I podcasted last. So I knit through the whole rest of the sock, and then I have started the cuff and just joined in the first color for the second sock. So I'm hoping to actually finish these this week. Knitty Natty is doing her sock week next week, where the goal is to knit a single sock from Sunday to Sunday, starting Sunday. So I would like to finish this week, and that definitely should be doable. I can definitely knit a whole sock in a week. I can knit a pair of socks in a week. But that would enable me to kind of join in with them, knit a sock, at least one sock, and then finish those socks before, again, I go on vacation, so that I can bring new sock yarn that I got last year in New York City to knit while I'm in New York City. But anyway, I digress. Let's see, I think the only thing that I need to, well, here, let me show you the inside. What I am doing to change colors is the cleft. Oh my gosh, I couldn't say this last week, could I? Clasp, weft, join. Ooh, I don't know why that one stumps me, but you can see all of my ends here. And the way that works is I take my first yarn, like my working yarn. I just joined this one, or I could show you a little bit better. But I would take my working yarn, I would fold it back like this, and then I would feed through, and it would look kind of something like this if you pretend that my finger is a yarn. And so they're hooked right in here. And then I would knit with this section for like 4 stitches. I try to make it just long enough so that it will cover the 4 stitches. And then by then I've gotten to the end of my round, and I'm starting my beginning of my round again with the new color, and I knit 4 stitches with it doubled up in the new color. I hope that kind of sort of made sense. And then all I need to do on the inside is I just trim the ends. I leave about an inch, inch and a half or so. I don't trim them any further than that. They don't bother me. And that way there's plenty of wiggle room for them to not come out. Like they're not gonna pop out because you've knit over it and it is hooked around itself, right? But yeah. Oh, and then the last thing I had figured out how many stripes to do in the foot, and I didn't read my notes. So when I got to the end of this last stripe, I realized that I still needed a little bit more space in my toe before I actually started, or in the foot before I started the toe decreases. So I ended up knitting 4 extra rows in the base color, so for a total of 6 rows, and then I started the color. Well, if I'd have looked at my notes, I would have seen that I had intended to do 12 row sections, but I didn't look at them until I went to go put that modification into my notes, so it's fine. And I don't think you can hardly tell that the toe that part's a little bit longer. Doesn't matter, and I think in a way it's kind of nice because it keeps the foot stripes the same length as the leg stripes, so. All right, that is that project. All right, I have 2 new projects. Let's start with my Avenue Tee. This is by Tori Yu also. And I began this one last week. Actually, let me talk about the yarn first. I'm going to save the project for you. So here's my yarn in my yarn cozy. And it is by Bigfoot Yarn Company. It is her Wendigo sock in Dolores. I don't know what the Dolores reference is, but it's a superwash merino nylon blend. I picked this up in Waterville at the beginning of June when Mom and I had gone out to the Fiber Frolic. And I knew that I wanted to make a t-shirt with it. I thought it would make a great t-shirt. So last week, since I had finished my Brooklyn Raglan Lite, it allowed me to start this one, and I chose the Avenue Tea, also by Tori Yu, and I've gotten a lot done. It's kind of crunched up here. I don't know if I can, let's say, there we go. That's the front. Because I am almost ready to split off the sleeves. I think I have like 6 more rounds before I need to split off the sleeves. I was actually delaying starting the podcast so that I could maybe have the sleeves split off and show it to you that way. But I decided I didn't want to wait any longer and kind of needed a break because these rows are getting kind of long. I want to say it is almost 65 stitches per sleeve, so that would be like 130 stitches, and then the back's probably over 100 stitches. So I'm probably somewhere between 300 and 350 stitches at this moment in time. So the rows take a hot minute to go around, but I'm really liking these colors and how it is coming out. I had thoughts of doing helical knitting and blending in the 2 different skeins, but I don't think I need to. I think there's enough that is going on with the speckles and the striping and the whatever that when I switch from one skein to another, it's not gonna make a difference. So I am not planning to do that. I'm just gonna forge ahead. My plan, my actual plan though, and I still have quite a bit here to go before I run out. But my actual plan is after I split for the sleeves, I will knit maybe an inch or so on the body, and then I'm gonna join in the second skein and knit the collar and the sleeves on the top, weave in all the ends, and then I can just work on the body. So that is the plan for this one. So my last project is another new cast on. Please tell me that I am not the only one who makes plans to finish all the things and promises yourself that you're going to do that before you cast on something new, and then all of a sudden gets a bee in your bonnet and does the exact opposite. Anyway, that is what happened, and I cast on something new. What's the date? Do I have the date? Cast on June 25th, so a couple of days after I podcasted, I believe. I ended up going and reorganizing my yarn in my bookcase downstairs. And I moved some stuff. I had my scraps that were down here. I ended up bringing those upstairs so that I could have more space in the bookcase downstairs, and just took all of the yarn out, pulled a few things out that I decided I didn't need, just reorganize. At any rate, I came across some yarn. Well, that kind of goes without saying, doesn't it? Anyway, I came across this yarn here that I had in the bookcase, and that's in my stash there. It is Zara, who's the actual, I don't know if Zara is the maker, but a Zara Plus Color. I don't know if there's another maker in there. It's a merino, 100% merino, I do believe. And I, again, have had this, yeah, it's 100%, actually it just says 100% new wool. I have had this in my stash for probably almost 10 years. It is worsted weight, 50 gram balls, and 77 yards, and I think I have 5 of them. Pretty sure I have 5 of them. And I love it. I love the color, but I'm like, what the heck am I gonna do with only about 375 yards or so, 350 yards of this worsted weight wool? It's not enough to do a sweater of any kind, certainly, or maybe a vest, but I'm really not a vest person. It's more than I would need for a hat, and I have plenty of hats, and I don't really wear hats to begin with, so what am I going to do with this? And I'm like, well, I actually had a vision of like a little bit of a Sophie scarf-esque kind of a thing that I could just kind of wrap around, and it would just be an accessory that I could wear. So I'm like, okay, let's just Google. So what I did is I actually found kind of 2 patterns, and this is what I have. So I am knitting, and it is, I think it's 4 rows of, I wrote it down in my project page, 4 rows of stockinette followed by a garter ridge, and then 4 rows of stockinette. And oh, excuse me. I saw this in somebody else's design and I didn't want to pay for the whole pattern. I'm like, oh, that's pretty much what that looks like. And I knew that I had several patterns by Boston Jennifer Lassonde from the Down Cellar Studio. And I figured I could take one of her shawl patterns and just kind of insert that basic pattern into it. So that's what I've done. I'm kind of sort of creating my own pattern. I am using her Riley Rose shawl kind of as my base, and I cast on like that. I did a bunch of rows straight garter before I started moving into my patterning. And my plan is to knit 2 balls, increasing. Then I'm going to weigh my 3rd ball and figure out exactly what it weighs and do about half of it and then decrease down. And that will use up all 5 balls. So this is 1 ball's worth. I started it, worked on it before I left on vacation. I worked on it a little bit at the beginning of my vacation, and then it sat. So I don't know how quickly. So much for me kind of limiting my projects, but like I said, I got a hare, a wild hare, bee in my bonnet, whatever you want to, metaphor you want to use to get this out of my stash and done. So it's actually gonna come out bigger and thicker than like the Sophie scarf kind of thought that I had. I don't know if it's gonna end up working. I don't even know if I'm gonna keep it, but it's getting knit up. So there you have it. So those are my projects for this week. I've had a great time with them, and we'll see how much progress I can make before next week. Well, I'm going to jump right into my day-to-day section. I don't have, certainly don't have any project dreams right now because I have so many new things that I have just started. I have not yet received my July Wool and Women Fibers box. Hopefully I'll get that this week, actually. So I've got nothing new to report on my yarn shelf. So we're going to just dive right into day-to-day, and pretty much it is just my vacation. So I know the week before my vacation, so right before, after I podcasted last, I went and I helped some friends who had moved. My house guests had moved into their house that night. I podcasted on the Monday, and that night I went and helped them as they were getting settled and cleaned. There was a whole bunch of us ladies from my church who went and helped them to clean, so we did that. I had a workout, a couple of workouts. I'm trying to think. I don't think there was anything really fussy that happened that particular week. I did on Thursday, I think it was Wednesday morning. I took care of my black raspberry bushes. I had gotten about halfway through and discovered a bird's nest. I think I talked about that last time. So I was sitting here and realized Wednesday morning, like Wednesday was going to be my first day of truly having a day off. And then I was sitting around 8:30 and I'm like, it is not quite 70 degrees right now, and I know it's going to get hotter, and it's supposed to get hotter as the week progresses, and then I know we're going on vacation, so like I have to do it now if I'm going to finish it. So I did. I went out, I spent an hour and a half, and I finished cleaning them out and got them all tied up, and they look amazing. And I actually went out this morning, and the first year canes had started to grow up, so I pruned those back and tipped them off, so they're tame now, and they're starting to ripen. I think it'll be another week and a half or 2 weeks, I think, before I get berries, but they're coming. So I did do that. That was before we left on vacation, and then I'm trying to think what we did on the Saturday, like the weekend before. Nothing in particular. I think it was a bunch of errands and things that needed to get done, and then Sunday after church, we headed off to North Conway, and it was lovely. We did pretty much nothing. It was great. The first day, that first Monday, we relaxed, came back, went out for breakfast, came back, and ended up taking naps half the afternoon. I didn't nap quite as long as my husband. My husband is a pro napper, I will say that. So I let him sleep, and I was just sitting on the bed, and I was knitting and watching some videos with my headphones on, and then we went and got some dinner. There was a Market Basket like within walking distance where our hotel was. The hotel we were in was like right on Settlers Green in New Hampshire, North Conway, New Hampshire. So like the outlets, and within the outlet complex was the Market Basket. So we walked over and we got ourselves some dinner. Actually, I think no, because we had driven over the day before and got snacks and brought them back. But we walked over that time and picked up some dinner and brought it back to the room. And then the next day what we did, and what we ended up doing every following day after that, is we started driving up the Kangamangas Highway, which starts about 15 minutes from North Conway. And we went about 15 minutes in. So the Kangamangas Highway is a scenic drive through, I guess it's western New Hampshire or eastern New Hampshire. I think it's 37 miles. And once you're on it, like there's a sign that says no gas for 37 miles or however many miles it is. And it takes you from Conway to Woodstock. And so we drove about 15 minutes in, and there's multiple scenic stops, and we pulled off on one, and we're in this, it was an area where there was a bunch of rocks that you could kind of look down on. In some areas were a little lower so you could get to the rocks, and we brought our chairs and we just sat and relaxed. We sat there for about an hour and I knit and relaxed, and then we went back to the room. And the next day we went back and we were going to do the exact same thing, and a couple told us, hey, look, if you walk back out and there's a little path and nobody seems to know about this part of this lookout. And sure enough, we went down there and we sat for a couple of hours and nobody came down there, and we did the same thing the next day, and we went back, and I've got some pictures that if I haven't already popped in, I will do. And we actually wore our bathing suits the second day. On that Thursday, we went back and we waded and sat in the water, and it was just gorgeous. And it was like 98 degrees that day, so it felt really good to be in the water. But there was some shade where we could sit, so it wasn't overly hot. And yeah, it was just great. So we would head out most mornings like at 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning and stay out for 4 or 5 hours, and then come back to the room by 2:30, 3 o'clock. And then around dinner time, I'd send my husband out to bring takeout back to the room, and you know, it was great. So it was a perfect little chill vacation. And then we got home on Friday, and of course, Saturday was 4th of July, and so we spent it with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law and did a little barbecue, and that night we watched the fireworks. Yeah, so it was not a whole lot to report on for having 2 weeks off. It's been low-key and exactly what I've needed. So that, I do believe, brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe. I will have links down below in the show notes for all of the things that I have talked about. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Knittin Michelle, KNITTINMICHELLE. You could also send me an email at michellesfiberstudio@gmail.com. I believe that is everything with that. I hope you have a fantastic week. I will see you next week for my 100th episode, and happy knitting.